Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's me again, that crazy guy with the lazy eye with who? HemetINews.com. And everybody knows that I do support my veterans. There's three things in life you don't mess with, ladies and gentlemen. And that number one, that's my woman. Number two, my police and fire units. And number three, my veterans. And today we got a great story, ladies and gentlemen, and that I think that needs to be shared out to the community. I've got the honor to be in the presence of a fine gentleman. And what is your name, sir?
ORIEN Earl Haguewood.
One more time, just for people that don't understand English.
ORIEN Earl Haguewood.
It's a pleasure to meet you. First of all, I want to re-shake your hand again and tell you thank you for your service. I love my veterans, and you guys and gals just don't understand what our veterans really go through nowadays. And this guy, he's got an interesting story that he's going to tell you guys and gals. And I have one of our new news reporters, Mark, if you will. Come on up here with me, Mark. Mark was a writer with the Valley Chronicle newspaper, is also now writing also as well with Hemet News. And welcome to Hemet News. I appreciate you coming out and helping us out with a story today, Mark, because I know you got a lot of questions that you want to ask this fine gentleman, right?
I certainly do. I certainly do.
I'm going to go ahead and before we get this thing started, I will let Mark do the interview today because Mark has so many questions that he wants to ask this guy. And we're actually over here at the Ryan Airport. As you see behind me over here, this guy's got a cool airplane, which we'll be showing you in a little bit about this airplane and then talking about this gentleman's airplane. And who knows, it might be up for sale. You never know. So, but anyways, Mark, I'm going to go ahead and let you get this party started. I can't wait to hear the questions that you have for this fine gentleman.
This is one interesting gentleman.
Are you excited?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'm excited to hear what he says.
Yeah, this is really something.
All right. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Altertine, right?
Allentine.
Allentine. He just says call him anything.
Without the V, I lost the V.
Right. He just says you can call him anything. You just don't call him late for El Zarapi's. What is it? We're going to be at El Zarapi. Yeah, no, it's we're going to actually bring this gentleman to El Zarapi Monday night. So we're going to have another little episode with this fine guy. And you guys and gals, if you support our veterans, I encourage you to come out Monday night over at El Zarapi. Maybe we can get you out there. Can you be there around 5 o'clock?
Monday?
Monday night, 5 o'clock.
Sounds very easy. Yeah.
Do you drink margaritas?
Yes.
I guess. You got a designated driver, right?
He does now.
The only thing is I only drink maybe 2 margaritas, and it doesn't affect me in any way.
Right.
No.
Well, we'll make sure you still get a ride home. We got a beautiful lady that's a neighbor. Why don't you come over and let me introduce you over here real quick? She's like, I'm camera shy. But you know what? I want to thank you this... Come on over here. What's your name, hon?
My name's Nancy. Nancy Madigan.
Nice to meet you, Nancy. And I want to say thank you for being the hookup for us and introducing this fine guy to us.
The Monday night, I want to have to sing Nancy with the laughing face.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I know all that stuff.
So, Nancy, what's it like living next door to a hero?
It's great. I mean, he's my neighbor. We sometimes sip a glass of wine in the evening together.
Oh, nice.
And I listen to his wonderful stories. Yes.
Well, talking about stories, folks, let's find out what this gentleman's story is all about. So, Mark, I'm going to get behind the camera and help Dennis run this camera, and then I'm going to give it all over to you.
Thank you. Mr. Haygood, I will again tell you that it is a pleasure and an honor, and bless you, and thank you so much for your service. And so let's take you back. I know we did speak a little bit in sort of pre-production, and I have a little bit of the story. And so let's take you back. It's 1942. You're 17, not quite 18. You turned 18 towards the end of the year, December 20th. But by then you were already in the service.
I was in the service, yes.
So just as you were going to enlist, you got what they used to call the greetings. So what was that like? What was that like when you opened up that envelope and said, "Uh-oh"?
Well, I figure out there's so many of my friends that were in the service and doing their job. I think it's my time to go and do what I'm asked to do by our U.S. government. So
you just were ready to serve.
I was ready to go.
And by the way, in case you're doing the math, this gentleman may not look it, but come December 20th this year, you're going to be 95?
95.
Not bad. Not bad. I hope to look that good in 2 years when I'm 60. So this is now, it's 1942, you're just getting ready to enlist on your own, you get your greetings, as they used to call it,
Yep.
from the boss, FDR.
Right.
And where did you first go? Where were you first stationed? Because you were born in
Well,
where? Ozark, Missouri? was it?
Yes, I went to North Kansas City, Kansas City, Kansas. There was an induction center there.
Okay.
I spent about 4 days there being checked physically all over
Okay.
and getting your uniforms and taken. And then I got right on a train and went to Camp Camel, Kentucky,
Camp Camel. Never heard of that one.
which
Kentucky.
is now a fort. It
Was
was
it-
right near Fort Knox.
Oh, okay. Very good.
So that's where I went for my training. I got 7 weeks of intensive training,
Boy, they must
driving
have
a tank.
really, yeah.
Driving a tank. I learned how to do everything you do in a tank. Gunner, loader, driver, and assistant driver. I have an assistant driver most of the time.
And what people I don't think realize that I know a little bit about, unlike yourself, that I've never had to serve, but especially back then, no, that was cramped quarters, right? That was very
Not
tight.
really. There were quite a bit of room.
Really?
Yeah, quite a bit of room. Of course, we had all kinds of ammunition all around and behind us for
Okay,
the
that's
big
what
gun.
it was. Okay.
And there was plenty of room in there.
By the way, we're being attacked by flies.
Yeah.
So if you see us shooing away, it's not that we're getting Saint Vitus dance. Is that you can't. There are flies all over the place. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Higgins.
Actually, there's quite a bit of room in a tank for the assistant driver also.
Really, I always had a
mean,
feeling it'd be kind of.
Yeah, they were like this wide and 2 good seats with a strap and
How many people? How many personnel were there usually?
five
Five.
people in a tank.
And what were do you remember their titles? I know obviously one's the
Well,
driver.
you had a driver,
Okay.
and I'm the assistant driver, and you had a loader for the big gun, and a
Okay.
gunner, and a tank commander.
Now the gunner was the guy who's actually pulling the trigger and trying to
On
hit
the
the
big
target.
gun, yes.
Okay. And what was the last one? The last.
With the tank commanders,
Tank
directors where to drive and do all this.
So-
We had earphones on.
Okay, so even when there was shelling, you guys could hear each other and tell
Oh yeah,
you what to do.
yeah, sure.
And what was your first big scrape? Because we're going to get to General Patton in a moment. Yes, this gentleman served under General George Patton, but
I can't. My memory's not that good, but
Not too bad.
The minute we got in the tank, we started moving northeast in North Africa, and we were moving every day.
so you were
Against Rommel.
You were in the North African campaign, and you
yes,
took
right.
on the man
Yes.
legendarily known as the Desert Fox. You
right.
took on Erwin Rommel,
Yes,
and you were engaging his forces daily.
every day. Yes.
Yeah. What was it? Did you have any idea or feeling of the part that you were playing historically, or was it just trying to get your job done?
I think it was just doing my duty for the Army and doing my job every day of the week. We would usually stop at night when it got really dark and you couldn't see what was doing. And there was always one guy in your tank that would be a guard outside at night. But everybody was told, do not move around in the dark. Don't move around.
Really?
So
Why
you
was
might
that?
get shot.
Ah, right, because they didn't know.
They might be German soldiers. You didn't
Sure.
know.
And so since they didn't know, they told you don't
Yeah,
move, so you
don't
weren't
move.
mistaken for.
Right.
And I would say we here living in the desert, it gets cold at night. It must have been cold there at night, I would guess.
Well, I don't know if you've been in a tank or not, but the final drive is
recently.
about this big round and probably that long, and it's full of oil, and it gets warm, and it stay warm all night long.
Really?
I slept a lot inside the tank. I found some boards, and I made me a bed between the 2 seats, and I'd sleep in there with my sleeping bag.
17,
fairly-
18-year-old boy.
Yeah, it was fairly warm in there.
Interesting.
No big. Of course, we wear good heavy clothes all the time. You know, you had
Right.
long underwear on.
Well, you know, I knew someone who was in Korea in the Korean campaign in Alaska, Point Bowers, Alaska, and I think heroes and those who serve have a tendency to downplay what they went
Yeah.
through because they don't think it was a big deal. But I want to ask you, because you got some hardware on your chest there, so I know that it wasn't as easy as you're making it seem. So first of all, what is this medal here?
This is from the non-commissioned officers of the military forces, and they present this to you. I've had this now about 10 years,
God bless you.
so
And
there was a ceremony at the hospital.
gotcha, you had a ceremony. And,
Yeah, right.
okay, now this one, I got these flies are attacking us, but I want, if you could turn your left shoulder a little to the camera, because this one here, this is the first and only gentleman that I have ever met, because what you're looking at makes me emotional. That is a Purple Heart. And again, I say thank you and bless you. Now, I know we spoke about it a bit, but how did that come about? I know what it was for because you told me how your tank. So explain that to me again. You're 17, 18. You're in the Army. The German bombs. What happened? They were called, what were they called? Till bombs? Tiller?
Well, you had the German soldiers, some of them carried bazookas. That's a hand-armed rocket to shoot at your tank.
Got it.
With an HEAP head.
Okay.
So they can penetrate your tank, but the tank commander up there has got a 50 caliber machine gun, and he can see all around the tank.
Okay.
And the assistant driver had a 30 caliber machine gun, and it was swivel.
So they weren't playing.
Every fifth round in the machine gun was a tracer. So if you see a soldier, a German soldier running out there, just follow him up with a tracer and
With
kill
the
him.
tracer, right. So the tracer, by the way,
It's not.
it lights the way for
Yeah,
those who
well,
don't
you
know.
can see exactly where the bullet
Right,
goes.
where the bullet,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And now they had you called them tiller, mortar, tiller bombs in the road that didn't do much.
Those were teller mines.
Teller mines.
The German teller mine only weighed about 11 pounds.
So it didn't really,
It didn't do very much damage to your tank,
okay,
but that's what the escape hatch was for. If your tank get labeled and it could not move,
okay.
you would go out underneath because a sniper can kill you from a half a mile away with a rifle.
So you didn't want to go out the top.
Don't go out the top.
So you went out the
underneath.
escape hatch.
Right.
Except that what did the Germans do? They stacked them, huh?
Yeah, they stacked them up 10 or 12 at a time. Now you got 140, 50 pounds of dynamite. And
Bam.
that's a pretty good explosion.
Yeah, so you guys rolled over one, and what happened to you and your back?
Well, like I say, that plate in the floor, they blew that off and it went right up my back, hit every vertebrae in my back, took off about 3/8 of an inch of my hide, and it hit me crooked. My left ribs were visible on the left side. So if it had went another half-inch farther, I probably wouldn't have any ribs and I'd be dead.
They used to say, you would have bought the farm, but you.
Yeah.
But now so this is now the Africa campaign. You're, what did they do? I would say emergency-wise once that injury.
We went through Africa, into Sicily,
Right.
and then into Italy.
Okay, so you.
I got wounded in Italy.
So you were Monte Cassino. Where were you?
Well, I was all over in the southern part of Italy.
So you got to see the world, but not exactly.
Well, after I got out of the hospital, I got to see
So you got injured in Italy itself.
right by the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was visible.
Really? So
Yeah.
you guys saw it, and the next thing you know, bam.
Yep.
So was there ever any doubt as to whether you would survive? Did you have a doubt first?
I guess it
Never thought
never
of it.
entered my mind.
And you know, the interesting thing that Mr. Haygood told me is you didn't worry about survival or worry about is this right or wrong or any of those kind of contemplative things. You just said, I have a job to
Yep.
do.
That was my duty. Yep.
Amazing. And so you didn't worry or even think about, hey, I wonder if I'm going to make this.
No.
So you
Never,
get injured. And how long were you in the hospital in Sicily, in Italy, rather?
A year.
Phew, a full year. Now, you see on some TV movies and things, I'd always heard this, and you confirmed it, that the care that you get in the hospital was
absolutely wonderful.
and they got you, they rehabbed you.
yeah.
Took a year. You're fighting back strong. You come out. It's now by the time, because you got injured in what, 44?
Yeah. June the 2nd, 1944.
4 days before D-Day.
Yeah.
June 2nd. Did you hear any scuttlebutt, as they used to call it, or anything that something big was coming June 6th, or you
No.
didn't know?
No.
Because it's all the way in
Yeah.
Calais and Normandy.
Yeah,
That's
right,
where
yeah.
the Calais they used as the fake, and then Normandy, of course, is
Yeah,
where we
right.
attacked. So you were in Italy. You guys were busy enough in
Oh,
Italy.
yeah, sure.
And so you're in the army. You're there. It's while you're there, war is a ceasefire and peace is declared. The end of the war. Do you remember hearing it? Do you remember what you felt and what?
Well, I knew the war had ended in, June, about May the 5th or so, or
Yeah.
the 15th,
Right.
that all the fighting had stopped. So,
Well, and you were still in Italy.
yeah, and I was still in the hospital.
You're still in the hospital, right? So you're in the hospital. You hear that, hey, the conflict is over. The war is over. And did you feel a sense of relief? Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you just
I was still pretty healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know what my mind wasn't doing anything crazy. I was making the best of everything that was happening.
Right. You were just trying to
Really
get-
didn't bother me.
No.
No.
So now we're at the end of the war. It's that classic year, 1945.
Yeah.
And do you go back to Ozark, Missouri? Was it Missouri?
I didn't leave Italy until November 45.
I stayed around too. I mean, it's left
I,
all those women, lonely Italian women. That's not bad.
The Italian women were after all the soldiers so
Were
they
they?
could get married
Really?
and bring them to the United
Not
States.
just for chocolate bars.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that didn't happen. They were looking for
Oh, yeah,
husbands to
sure.
come back to
Absolutely.
the States.
Yes.
See, okay.
I
Plus
got
you had
a
that
short
uniform.
story for you.
Go ahead.
I was downtown Naples, and I met a nice young lady.
By the way, I'm going to cut you off just for a second. Every time you hear a story that starts out, I was in downtown Naples.
You know what's going to do.
This is good. So I'm sorry, Mr. Haygood. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I met this lady,
Uh-huh.
and she
And there
wanted.
she is. She's coming in for a landing. No, I'm joking.
Anyway,
Okay. So go ahead. So you meet
She
this
took her home so I could meet her parents.
Yikes.
So we went, and in Italy at that time, coffee was not available to the Italian people. Period. No coffee
Well, I guess
whatsoever.
they kept the rations for their
the
men.
military, yeah.
They're fighting military.
Anyway, so we had a date, and then I went back to the camp. I was a guard in a bureau where we rebuilt all aircraft, or not aircraft, but all the military stuff, motorcycles, trucks, everything,
Oh,
rebuilt
okay.
it. I was a manager there.
Got it.
So I thought, I'm going to take her family some coffee.
Oh my.
I had I don't know what the container was now, but it was probably about that big around, about that tall.
Okay.
And I filled that full of coffee, and I took that to. You would have thought that I gave that family $1 million
That's great.
because there was no coffee available.
So did she propose to you, or did her father?
Well, we
propose
went
to you?
together quite a while. You know how things go.
Yeah, I'm sure. I do.
Anyway,
So you were together for a while, and now so you come back unwed,
Yeah.
back to the States, and you told me you married. You had a rough
Yeah.
marriage that didn't last too long.
yeah.
So this is now, say, around, was it 47?
Yeah,
And
I came to California in '47.
now,
so-
before I go any further, of course, we have to talk about General George Patton.
Oh, okay.
So I have a question because I'm anybody who knows, I always tell you I'm a conspiracist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. There's no theory. The truth is the truth. And when we first met, besides being impressed, I asked you one question, so I'm going to ask you on camera, and that you know what's coming. So, do you believe General Patton was killed,
Yes,
purposely killed?
yes.
Okay. Do you and I sort of agree why? Because he was
I don't know why, but I know that there was nobody that liked him in the service.
because he
hardly
was a
all.
straight shooter.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, just if you want to look this up, there are several books on it. But I always thought that this guy that they called, if I remember, it was Blood and Guts, wasn't it? Wasn't it his
Blood and
name?
Guts Patton, yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden, this tough as nails guy, gets in an accident that didn't dent even the fender, but then he broke his neck
Yeah,
and
yeah.
died. So
Yeah.
it was all, it was questionable.
You're
at
right,
best.
very questionable.
Yeah. So you said you never met him, but obviously you were under his command. And what
Oh,
did
yes,
you think?
very definitely.
What did you think? Because you're fighting one of the names of the war. Not only was Patton a great name and a historic name to serve under, but you were fighting the Desert Fox, Erwin Rommel.
Well, like I say, he was a good planner. He knew how the country laid, how you would attack and move forward. I think that's why he was so famous. His name was so famous, because he knew how to do that.
Because he was
As
able to look at
personally, I don't think anybody liked him.
So maybe personally he wasn't the greatest guy to get along with, but he could look at a map and a topographical area and say,
Right.
this is where we
Yep,
have to go,
that's
and this
right.
is what we have to do. As an aside, there are several books also on General Patton and the fact that he firmly believed he had fought in the war in the days of the legendary Romans, that he believed he lived prior. There's a couple of books on that, and that's why he was so successful. He said it was almost like going home in a sense. So, but you weren't too impressed by, hey, we're going after Rommel every day, and
No.
boy, I'm serving under General George Patton. You seemed like a guy that was, I'm doing my job. This is what I'm here for.
Another thing you probably didn't know about or know now, a lot of the German artillery was pulled by horses.
I did not know that. I would would have guessed that in the first
So then
World War,
our
but in the
military sent all of our fighter planes out to shoot all the horses.
Yikes. So then it was pretty easy. All they did was kill the horses.
Sure. Then they couldn't move the artillery.
So we had them at a disadvantage,
Yeah,
numbers
right.
wise,
Sure,
and they had Horseys against our fighter jets and fighter planes.
Yep.
And, now, one of the things that I thought was very, and I know you did get emotional, and I'm sorry to go back to that, but you said towards the end of the war, what was the hardest thing you said that you saw?
Well, like I told you before, about probably a month before I was injured, we are capturing 11 and 12-year-old German soldiers.
That's and
Just
you said,
kids. They were just kids.
And you said that of all the things that have stuck with
Yeah.
you all these decades, that was the hardest thing to rectify.
Yes.
I understand that. That was part of Hitler's youth movement, but
Whatever.
and you saw that. You said that once they got close, these children being
Yeah,
children,
yeah.
as soon as they got close enough to see who
Yeah.
you were, then
They threw their guns down and put their hands up.
and how did you react? I mean, it must have been shocking to see basically little kids. I mean,
Not really. I wasn't
well,
shocked.
at a
but
distance they were shooting at you, right? They were-
Well, some of them probably.
yeah.
But we had infantry about a quarter mile behind us.
Wow.
And we had headphones, and they were talking to the guys behind us. So the infantry moved up and captured all the young people.
So there
right
were
away, yeah,
these
yeah,
group
yeah.
of kids,
Yes,
these groups
right.
of kids.
Yeah, right.
And
Well, they were spread out.
there
you
was
know.
okay. So it was a line. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
So how did it emotionally affect you? I know it affects you now, still decades later. And I don't mean to bring it
They
up
were,
again.
they were kids. They were just kids, 11 and 12-year-old German soldiers. And like I told you before, the minute they came into the view of our tanks or the infantry, they threw the gun down, put their hands up.
So their
and give up.
childhood
Yeah,
kind of
You're right.
came back to them, and
Yeah,
they said,
I'm
"We
sure it
can't
did
do
right
it."
away. That's the only thing that really still affects me.
Well, I can understand it. Let me ask you. Did they accord themselves as soldiers? I mean, once they dropped their weapons and they...
Well, see, I didn't have any personal contact with them because the infantry got them and
Okay, so the
captured
infantry
and took
moved
them,
up,
took
took
them
all these children.
took them all back behind us, way back. So.
Amazing. So you're just out there being a soldier. You saw what you saw. The infantry moved up, took these children, and that was that.
Yes.
When you got back, obviously this is America of a different era. Were there any ticker tape parades? Were there anything, or was it just, business as usual? We had our job to do. Now it's 1945, 6, and 7.
I don't remember any parades or any big things for the soldiers.
So you just came back, and now it's time to start to pick up the pieces of your life.
Right.
So did you come back in 45? You said you got back in 46 to the States.
Well, I came home on the aircraft carrier, the Lake Champlain.
The Lake Champlain.
It was a brand new aircraft carrier that hadn't seen any duty in the war.
Nice. So they sent you home in luxury. They sent you home in style.
Well, let me go a little farther. I think there was 15,000 soldiers on the boat, and 5,000 WACs, and a crew of 5,000. And we had, all in the hangar decks of the aircraft carrier, they were 8 high.
Oh my God! So forget the luxury. You guys were sardines in there.
So,
Yikes.
and we all had numbers in the areas, and they fed food 24 hours a day
They
to
must
feed
have
that many
around-
people.
Right, feed the 25,000
Yeah,
people
yeah,
in a floating
yeah.
city, essentially.
Yeah, right.
And boy, you have really had some memories and some stories.
Yes.
So you get home, and did you go back to Ozark, or did you come?
Well, I stayed in Springfield for a while. That's where my mother
Springfield,
lived.
Missouri, okay.
Stayed there, and then I set pins in the bowling alley for a couple of years, and made damn good money.
That's great. So you're right, because if people don't know what Mr. Haygood is speaking about, back then there was nothing automated. So when someone would knock down, you get a spare or a strike, then someone's got to jump off the right. Am I right? It's like a bar. You jump down,
We worked 2 alleys, one on each side.
and you would jump down. And what would you do? You'd
Well, you
reset-
could just flip your legs over and pick the pins up, and you learn how to pick up 6 pins at a time. And if there are any pins left on the alley, you don't put the pins back in the rack, because they might miss on the next one. They wouldn't spare anything.
So, and you had to do this with the quickness that they do in tennis, where the kid runs across and gets that ball. You got to be quick.
Yep.
Boom, jump down. Did you ever have? I used to watch, because I'm an old movie buff. Did you ever have anybody kind of get mischievous and roll a ball while you were trying to set them up, or you didn't?
No.
No. Okay.
They were most all the professionals.
Ah.
One guy, I wish I could remember his name. He gave me a 50-cent tip.
50. That was a big deal
No,
back
that was
then,
a big deal. Hell yes.
50-cent tip. That's
Yeah.
great. So now it's say 1947.
47, yeah.
47, and you come here to California,
Yep.
and you said a half brother.
Half brother lived over in Bell.
Bell,
Yeah.
Bell, California.
Yeah.
Okay, so he comes over to Bell, you come over to Bell, California, and you had a sort of troubled marriage for a year.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have hardly any money. I worked for a candy company in Denver a little bit before I came here, so I had probably a couple $100 in my pocket. But I stayed with my half brother Fred, had a son Bill, and Bill had got married, so they had an empty room for me.
So you had a room waiting.
Yeah, so
a little bit better accommodations than on the Lake Champlain, huh? You had
Yes,
a little bit of
very
elbow.
definitely.
Yeah, you had a little bit of elbow room. And
So
now, what did you do when you settled here in California? You told me you went to work for.
Well, I worked for Canada Dry, loading the trucks at night. What was sold during the day, we put back on the truck at night.
Gotcha.
And then I worked as a surveyor in the stockyards, which I didn't stay with that very long, because you were around all the manure and the stockyards. And
Oh
I
my
got
gosh,
sick
cattle
of that.
stockyards. You don't mean the train stockyards.
Yeah,
You
I'm
mean
talking
where
about
they're
a cattle stockyard.
Yeah, that would have kind of got up my nose too. That would have been so. So then you got into the aircraft.
Got into the
industry.
aircraft.
And who was the first aircraft manufacturer you worked with?
Convair, San Diego.
Convair. Yeah, that was.
They were building the Delta Wing F-102 and 106 fighter
Yes, sir.
planes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I traveled all over California and Arizona buying parts, go inspect the parts.
Because you were saying they had to be the very minute tolerances.
Oh, yeah. You know how thick a piece of paper is?
Yeah. Okay. And
Okay, that's the tolerance that you would have on a contour or anything. Plus or minus a couple of thousandths.
So obviously you had the equipment
Oh,
to
yes,
measure this. And
yes, yes.
So then you went from the concourse to where did you?
I went to work for a company in Santa Fe Springs called Ace Industries.
Okay.
We made all the compressor turbines for small jet engines.
Okay. So you were there at the early days of
Yes.
not only military aircraft, but civilian aircraft.
Yes.
Okay, so now speaking about the early days of civilian and military aircraft, we have this interesting looking specimen here. This is a heck of an interesting looking aircraft. Now, what were you just telling me about this design? Can you get it, Eddie? You got it? Okay, so tell me, if you will, about this aircraft.
The Wright brothers airplane had the small wing out front.
Out front?
That's a canard.
This is called a canard.
That's a canard.
Okay.
And then he sat back on, there was two wings on the back. He sat back on the wing, and the engines were behind him.
Just
So the
like
engine's
this.
back there. This is the pusher, goes that way.
So the propeller, if you can see it, is in
It's
the
in-
back,
it's in the
not
back,
in the
yeah.
front. And now let me ask you, is this flight worthy?
Oh, yes,
So this can get up in the air.
yes. I've flown it,
You have flown it.
I've
So
got-
you do fly.
yes. I've built 3 of these airplanes. I've probably got 3,000 or 4,000 hours of flying time in these type of aircraft. Flies
You're
just
going to
like
take me up someday?
It flies just like a regular airplane. There's no difference.
Really?
You got rudders out there on the end of the wings, and they're independent of each other.
Okay.
And you got ailerons on the wing there.
Ailerons, okay.
Uh-huh. And this is your elevator
Now,
right here.
If I'm correct, the ailerons are the ones that go
Yeah, right. One side goes up there and goes down. That makes you turn left or
you
right.
bank right and you bank
Right,
left.
mhm.
So you're going to take me on a ride someday?
Probably not.
Okay. I wouldn't either.
Anyway, then your elevator is here.
Ah, okay.
Same thing on the, wasn't quite that elaborate on the Wright Brothers airplane, but that
Well,
they
it's the
had
same idea.
Same idea, yeah.
This design comes from
Yeah.
that. So how did you come about this airplane?
Well, I got my pilot's license in 1946.
Not bad. One of my favorite actors, by the way, of all time was a pilot, Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Retired as a
Anyway.
brigadier general, I believe.
I
So-
got, like I say, I was in the aircraft industries, and I like to fly, and I got my license in 46, private pilot. And one of the guys at the airport wanted me to be a duster for the crops.
duster.
He said, no, that DNT will
I was
kill
going
you.
to say, yeah,
It'll kill
that's
you.
stuff to yeah.
So I didn't do that.
Okay.
So I went ahead and got a slight commercial license, but I didn't go into the military or the civilian flying. I stayed private, so
Gotcha. And you didn't do
Yeah.
any barnstorming
No,
around the country,
no.
no? Okay.
no.
So now we're going to jump ahead again a little bit. So you're now in the early 50s. You're working, and you worked in the aircraft industry till when? 78? Did you say?
78.
78. So then in 78, you were used to be about 53, 54. And then,
Yeah, well, then I got in. I went to other couple of companies, the big
Okay.
companies, Douglas, and I worked for Rockwell on the B-1B bomber.
okay. Oh, really? Okay.
I retired from that on 1988.
88. So
Yeah.
you were then, I guess, about 64. So let's move back over.
62 and a half.
62 and a half. Okay. Yeah, 1922. Okay, 1924. Yeah. So then what you been doing since besides
Well,
enjoying your
I had a
retirement?
machine shop in my garage, a full machine shop for about 40 years, making aircraft parts for experimental airplanes, not certified.
But you made parts and
Yes.
people, so then
Yes.
you must have been pretty damn good at it. You did it for 40 years.
Oh, I can measure 50 millionths of an inch, so no problem there.
Yikes. Not bad, huh?
And these airplanes, you build every piece. There's no kit of any kind.
So, and it's not like you can call up and say, give me part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No. You make your own parts, every one of them.
So essentially, if you wanted to, you could, from the ground up, design and build the plane using parts you made, just completely.
Yes. Well, I was
Not a bad
making
thing to
parts
have on a
for.
resume.
Well, the nose gear, I made all the struts for that, and the axles and everything. I made those.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
everything like that was simple for me to do.
Really?
I'm not smart,
Well,
but you know, necessity
right.
is the mother of invention.
So you needed to do it, and you did it.
So they give you a thing, and you think about it, and you know how to
Say
make
how
it.
to do it.
Yeah.
Now what? Now let me just. I'm looking. So we got now. What is this other? Now we got a little sort of pyramid here. What is that one?
Well, that's the first armored medals. Yeah.
Okay. And this one here.
That's a good conduct medal.
Okay. So you were good. They didn't know about the girl in Italy, did they? They didn't. Dad, what is now this? I love your hat. You know that's a beautiful
Well,
hat.
That's my Purple Heart. This is a tank.
It's a tank medal.
Yeah, right.
Can here show that to the if you don't mind. I just want to show that's his tank medal. And then now what is the smaller one here?
That's from the NRA. I'm a life member of the NRA.
Oh, okay. They used to hand those out, right? They
Yeah.
don't anymore. You get a nice little patch. I know they
Yeah.
got that one.
And that's
what
the
is
first
this?
arm. That's the first armored.
First armor. And if you don't mind putting your cap back on, it says World War II vet combat disabled.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, you're not going to see too many of these men around. God bless them.
I really do think there's quite a few of us left around because I'm running across a lot of them all the time.
Really?
I dance, and I went to the
Where do you go
cemetery.
dancing?
Huh?
Where do you go dancing?
Right over here at Hemet
funny.
West.
Where is it?
Hemet West, right over there.
Hemet West. Will
It's
they
at
take
Mobile
a young,
Home Park.
Will they take a young guy like me? I guess not. No,
If you give them $5, yeah, and get in here, they'll take you.
that's great. So now this is wonderful, and I mean I bless you for your time and your service. I could stay for all day and just praise you and thank you and honor you for your service because it's a remarkable thing to me, especially someone who knows that era and loves that era. But if you had to sum up, as I say, December 20th this year, you're going to be 95.
Yes.
What do you say that the people that haven't seen what you've seen but are sitting there and they're watching and you say, listen, this is what I have been able to sum up from all my years. This is what I think life is about.
Well, my first thought on everything like that is I want to be healthy. So I was married for 51 years. My wife was born in a rural district. They grew all their own food, and I was born on a big farm. We grew all of our own food.
Did you even do that into your later years currently? I mean,
No.
or you try and buy, you try and eat as much as you can that's
When I left and moved into town, that was the farmers went.
right. Do you still have a sort of a vegetable or mostly vegetable diet? You try and eat healthy?
Yes, I cook all my own food. I got a pot like this, and I go buy every kind of vegetable you can think of. I put it in there and cook it.
So
And then I put that in dinner portions, and that's what I have for dinner at least 5 nights a week.
So you're not running out to fast food places
No.
and
I'm trying to
convenience
stay away
store.
from those, yeah.
Try and stay. Well, I think the plan has worked. You're going to be 95 and you look fantastic. So first is your health. That's the first
I
thing.
take a blood pressure pill about as big as a grain of rice, and that's it.
And
I
that's
take
it.
my vitamins every morning, and I fix my own food every morning, and
And that's
I
it.
take the vegetables and make a vegetable omelet.
Vegetable omelet.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Do you eat meat at all?
Chicken and fish.
And like not too much of it, or do you eat a decent amount?
And I buy a baked chicken from Costco, and I cut it up and I mix that with the vegetables.
Your vegetables and your-
and for breakfast.
So if I asked you, if I said, if you could give me one secret to life, and obviously you've lived a fruitful life and you've been healthy and happy, what would you say? If I said, hey, I really just need one nugget, I need one thing to take away and say, boy, I can do this.
Well, one of the things I can tell you, I'm happy every day of my life. Every day. I've never been depressed for any reason whatsoever.
You don't let it get to you.
No. And I'm trying to eat the healthy foods that will keep me healthy.
Well, it's an honor. And I bless you, Mr. Haygood. Thank you so much. Bless you, sir.
You're welcome. It was my
It's
duty.
about the most important interview I've ever done with a true hero. He may not think he is, but he is. Bless you.
It was my duty.
There you go.